Welcome to another episode of Coaching Football with Brian Clee. Episode 10, time to look into some examples of matching up against various route distributions out of 3x1 formations. This is actually 2 episodes in the making. Back in episode 8, I was going to try and cover, this is all our coverages, our pre-snap checks, our post-snap calls, and then here's examples of our matches against different routes and formations, and that turned into a 55-minute long monstrosity that just was rushed and it wasn't going to be good. So adjustment to the game plan, broke it up, and all right, here's the playbook overview of our coverages and checks in episode 8. Episode 9, I'm going to do all the matches, and by the time I got to the end of the 2x2 matches, it was already sitting at 30 minutes. So last adjustment, 3x1 gets its own episode, and I think that's really, really appropriate because trip formations are when the offense starts to make you as a defensive coordinator make some definite decisions. Ultimately, you need to decide, number one, who is their dude, where are their biggest threats as players, and then secondly, how are they using him? What type of plays are they actually calling? Are they attacking the single receiver side? Are they attacking the 3 receiver side? And then last and most important for any of the younger coaches out there is all these coverages need to be installed during your preseason. Actually, for most of us, if you got some summer 7-on-7 and what you're allowed camp day wise in your state, this is something that gets installed at the beginning of the summer, if at all possible, and definitely during your preseason. In Michigan, we've got 2 full weeks of preseason before we have our first scrimmage, and these are things that we make sure we get covered right away, so that way you're not trying to teach your guys something in 3 days just because that's the best way to take away what an opponent's doing. It's something that they already know how to do, and you're just focusing on that particular coverage because you are defending that team. So as always, hope you get something out of this. Check out our examples of matching up route distributions against 3x1 formations. There is our defensive philosophy, just in case it's the first time you've checked out an episode. Really believe you need to play defense with all 11 defenders to cover the horizontal and vertical threats of an offense. Each of those defenders need clear keys with simple yet sound reads and reactions based off those keys. Greater simplicity allows your guys to play faster, to play more aggressively, which in turn forces the offense to execute at a higher speed, which leads to more mistakes and good things for the defense. When choosing your coverage checks against 3x1, it's going to be influenced more based on film and scouting reports than what you do against 2x2 sets. The game plan, as always, I think needs to account primarily for personnel and then also the actual offensive play calls. Each of our coverage checks is going to have strengths and weaknesses. When we're in stress / cover 4 to the trip side, it is allowing us to keep 3/2 on the single side if you count the running back. And if the running back sets strong, in the end, you're not in a one-on-one matchup with their stud receiver on the single side, if that's where they're putting him. However, it's going to lack leverage because there's only 4/3 on the trip side, and if it's some form of play action where our inside linebacker gets a run read, we really only have 3/3 on the trip side. Overload coverages such as cloud and sky has great leverage with 5/3 on the trip side, but now you're in one-on-one matchups on the single side, especially if the running back's set over there. You've got a defensive back on the single receiver. If he's the stud, you got to have a cornerback who is better than him, who's going to be able to shut him down, and then you might have matchup issues with a linebacker on the running back. And then the last consideration in our checks, typically if we get 3 detached receivers and we're choosing to overload that side, we're going to be in cloud because we want a corner quickly supporting the flats. If we have 1 detached receiver, so like a flanker or wing tight end, we're going to be in sky because we want to be able to quickly have a run force defender in the alley and make sure the ball doesn't get out there. Against skew detached, it goes back to what I said up top, where the film and scouting reports are going to dictate and make us make decisions with how we want to overload that. Do we want to cloud it or do we want to sky it? Stress, again, is going to be the strength. Is on the single side here, we've got 3 defenders over 2 offensive players, and on the trip side, we got 4 defenders over 3. And the plan is to jump back and forth and show you how the matchup is going to look when we're in stress, and then here is an example of how the matches are going to look when we're in cloud. On the single side, again, you got 3 over 2, so I would prefer to be in double. If I am calling stress to the trip side, I'd want to be in double on the single side, because we are going to probably have 2 defensive backs on the vertical threats, whether that is the stud at wide receiver or maybe a wheel out of the backfield, and then the wheels playing underneath that, or possibly an outside linebacker, depending on the call we have with our front. If you're getting a lot of run, potentially, it might be more beneficial to be in a little bit more of a man assignment and put the down safety on the running back. Cloud is going to get 5 defenders over the 3 receiver side, and then you're one-on-one on the single side, which makes sense if, number 1, that corner can cover the number 1 receiver, and then number 2, if that running back is set strong, you really don't need as much run support to that single side. And you can either go man, what we call peel, where the corner is going to be locked on number 1, and this makes a ton of sense. If that guy is absolutely a dude, you don't want to leave him. He's the guy that they're trying to get the ball to on this side, but then they also have a threat on the 3 receiver side. You can also go with more of a zone concept, where the corner is either walked off or he's press bailing, where the corner is going to take the first vertical threat out of the wide receiver and the running back. I think this is something you'd want to be in if they're using number 1 on a lot of crossing routes, or a snag concept where he's going to sit down on a spot route, and then they're trying to get the running back out deep on a wheel. First up, we will look at verts, formations into the boundary, and I really like stress in this situation because a lot of times when teams go formation into the boundary, they're trying to get a lot of space for either that single receiver to work or to attack in the run game, whether it's potentially speed option or a quarterback sweep. And by being in stress and only having 4 over 3 on the trip side, we're keeping 3 over 2 here to the field side. We're also keeping our faster players in both our corner and our free safety to the field. With the wide split here, we would probably check to single, have our corner man that guy, and deny the inside release, especially with the wide split. And then the free safety would have the running back on swing pass or speed option, and he'd be the pitch player, and then that really gives us a chance at having 2 quarterback players in both the inside linebacker and the outside linebacker. On the trip side, the actual match, the outside backer ends up being the key to stress. He is going to reroute and carry the vertical 2. The only thing that's going to take him off that, and we're okay if he comes off late, is 3 crossing his face out, or 1 crossing his face to the inside. Corner and our deep safety here on the boundary side, they are both going to be in a slow pedal or shuffle out. It's one of the few times we end up not taking a flat foot read out of those guys. Corners split in 1 and 2 until something breaks off, and then you can match up the final vertical between those 2 receivers. And then he's going to favor 2. We're inviting the quarterback to try and make that throw to number 1. turn the sideline into an extra defender. Or if we flip this and go field side with it, the corner wants to make sure that quarterback has an arm to make that throw all the way out to number 1 on the vertical. And number 3, after the inside linebacker gets a pass read, he's working to wall 3, which makes the deep safety's job a little bit easier. Nothing is coming back in, so the inside linebacker can continue to carry it and play underneath, while our deep safety keeps inside leverage and stays on top. So cloud, the single receiver side. Now, in the run game, potentially a speed option can be a little bit more problematic because the free safety is not in a down position to be able to help out and play the pitch. So that pitch has to become the inside linebacker or outside linebacker's job, which really kind of leaves you short a gap. And that's why we'd want to be able to stay in stress and not have to go to cloud. Matching up on the vert side, much easier. We're going to have both our outside or inside. They're going to be able to wall and carry 2 or 3. Again, they're only coming off if something breaks out or in. And then both the free safety and the deep safety, they're able to keep inside leverage and stay on top much easier because they got that underneath help. And then the corner, he's reading 2 or 3. We get to actually call alerts when we're in cloud. We treat it just like our cover 4 or 2 matchup. And we get 2 seams here, so the corner keeps sinking. He can even cheat inside a little bit, but he can match number 1 if we get 3 verts to the cloud side. So now stress versus bubble. This is where you're a little bit weak because that's stud linebacker, that outside linebacker, he's planning on carrying the vertical too. So he's really got to have disciplined eyes on 3 and to some extent 1. He can't play 2 real physically until he sees 3 out like that. After he does that, he is the flat defender. It's his job to cross 2's face, make sure 3 cuts back where we'll have pursuit, especially from our inside linebacker. And then secondarily, our free safety and probably our defensive line at some point would rally to it. But he needs to make sure that ball goes back because both the corner and the free are bailing. They're anticipating the fake bubble go. The corner's got to stay on top of 1. The free safety has to stay on top of 2 when fake bubble go happens. The backside, we're in double. And this shows the benefit of being stressed to the 3 receiver side. That bang 8 post by the single receiver, corners on top and outside, the deep safety is on top and inside, and if the running back doesn't leak all the way out, the will linebacker can play underneath that yet, and the throwing window just doesn't exist for the quarterback. And even if 2 would be set weak and swings immediately, the will linebacker can drop for depth. He's going to appear in that underneath window and again, probably deter the quarterback from even making the throw there. So now cloud, we got an alert because the corner is reading 2 and 3. If either of them are out immediately, he can alert it just like when we're in our read cover 4, cover 2. He's going to be through the outside shoulder of 1. He's leveraging it all back in. We still teach the outside linebacker to work to outside leverage on the block by number 2. And that's just for simplicity, so he's playing fast. He's worried about being physical, and he's using the same technique all the time. The free, as soon as the alert happens, he's getting eyes to 1, and he's ready to go match the vertical and play the fake bubble go. And then our deep safety from the boundary side, he's cheated over. Sometimes we will start him back at the other hash, but as the ball's being snapped, we want him to be somewhere between 2 weak and 3 strong. And as soon as he sees the alert by 3, his eyes go to 2, and he's playing the fake bubble go 2, denying that post. Backside, we're in peel there, and even though that's a single matchup between the corner and 1, really the will linebacker, after he reads pass, he can sink and be underneath 1, and again be at least in the throwing window. and he doesn't have to get to the flats fast, especially on a fake. If it's a swing, still want that depth, so that way we can run downhill at a throw to the flats. Fake bubble go. It's not an incredibly hard match out of stress, but we don't have the same margin for error, I guess. The release by number one is going to be much more free. That corner is stuck very much on an island, whereas when we see Cloud here in a second, you're going to see how that number one receiver really gets funneled to a safety. So corner and free, though, they see the out by 3. They know there's 2 verticals left. They got to go match those and play the fake bubble go. Freeze inside on top. Corner is going to play inside on top unless that split gets really, really narrow. On the backside, we're in double, and this is another example of why, all right, if their best player is either the running back or that single receiver, being in stress is probably better, because if they wheel that running back out, we're going to be able to have the corner match up on that. He's keying 1 to 2 when we're in double. The deep safety's keying 2 to 1. 2's working out. Corner's sinking and playing outside leverage on 1. As 2 starts to cross his face, he's going to go match that wheel and play inside on top. The deep safety wants to be on top and inside of the post here, and then the inside linebacker can play underneath. Cloud, again, the corner, because he's going through number 1, is going to be able to play that bubble a little bit harder. Our stud linebacker, we really train him. All right, I'm crossing face, there's nothing there. We might be able to get him to sink and be underneath a route if this is a little more of a post as opposed to a vertical. So he gives that free safety a little extra help. Both the inside linebacker, our Mac in this picture, and our deep safety, inside linebacker playing underneath, and the deep safety inside leverage and on top. Backside, we're in curl here, where we're zoning up. This is where, being in Cloud, if that number 1 receiver is really good, and that number 2, that running back from the backfield, is way faster than our will linebacker, this could be a little bit problematic, because we can't count on our will linebacker really running with that slant if it continues further. So that's one of those situations of sometimes being in peel back there ends up being a little bit better. So now we got Snag to the stress side. Outside linebacker, as always, reroute 2, start to carry the vertical until something crosses your face. Should be keying 3. 3 is out. Work through 2, push him out further so that way the corner can match it, and then be ready to push to the flats as the ball is being thrown. Will linebacker, 3's out immediately. I don't have a vertical to carry, so keep sinking and find the next thing coming in. Happens to be 1 sitting down on the spot route here, or the snag route, whatever you want to call it. He's going to be inside leverage. Our deep safety should be stacking that new final number 3 as 1 comes in and becomes 3. And then the corner, again, it's a case of know where the sideline is, work that to your advantage, work back to inside and ideally on top position over the final outside vertical. There's a small chance that deep safety will end up helping out that corner, but he's really got to confirm that spot route set down. And on the backside, this is an example of single being a little bit problematic for the defense. If number 1's sitting down, ultimately offensive coordinators are calling that a rub, and us defensive coordinators are calling that offensive pass interference, also known as a pick. If that 1's sitting down, the free and corner got a cross face, so that's something where walking off and playing double might be better, just because you're going to be able to keep better leverage as opposed to being man-to-man.
So now Cloud against Snag. Corner is going to be able to alert, 3 on the arrow immediately. Our outside linebacker, he is punching and he can carry 2 because he doesn't need to push out to the flats. The corners are going to have that all the time in Cloud, and again, that's another advantage of Cloud. So he'll be playing inside and underneath of 2. The deep safety is going to be on top and inside on 2. Again, we're leveraging him and pushing him towards the sideline as much as we can. Will linebacker sync and match the new final number 3. 3 goes out, get eyes for the next threat coming back in, and the free safety should be stacking that final 3. On the back, there's an example of us being in curl. Again, a little problematic if you're worried about like a spot and go or a snag and go. But by playing curl, a zone concept between the corner and the inside linebacker, you're able to get the corner on the deep route, which is what most offenses are typically trying to throw. And again, that comes down to a game plan thing of how you want to play it, how you want to match it up. And really, the free safety, he could cheat just a little bit more to that field side and stay in backpedal looking for work, just if that is a concern of yours. So here we are against a wheel concept, and this is where stress is stressful. 3's out, 2's in immediately. So that stud linebacker knows he doesn't have to carry 2 because 2's not vertical. He initially should be matching the flats. So start to gain width to keep leverage on number 3. And the corner here, his real job is the deep outside quarter, and this is where stress can be a little bit of a problem because a lot of outside quarter guys or outside deep third guys, they get squeezed in that post and they'll completely leave the wheel. So we teach that stud linebacker, you're running with the wheel until you see the corner actually on the route there. If the corner's never on that route, keep running with it. Even if you're trailing it a little bit, you're at least forcing the quarterback to put air underneath it. If you see the corner, push out and get on top of that wheel, you can work back inside and match the post underneath, because that is, in the end, the final number 2. You're underneath of either that post stop or that wheel. Free safety. We got a crosser. Our MAC linebacker gets on top of it and is able to wall it, and it continues to cross. It's not your job anymore. You can push out and match the final number 2 with on top and inside leverage. Definitely a lot more space over here in stress than what we'll have in Cloud here in a second. And on the backside, we're doubled up. That corner, he can work to inside leverage if he feels and doesn't see the deep safety giving him help. If he knows that deep safety's gotten over there, he can maintain an outside leverage while the deep safety takes inside leverage. Here we are with wheel against Cloud. Again, much easier match. In fact, our deep safety, he's able to spend more time and really be helpful where the defense is stressed when we're in Cloud. So 3's out, corner starts to pull his trigger, 3 continues. Anytime you are the flat defender in a matchup situation, in really all coverages, you need to be able to run with the wheel if that continues out of the flats. So corner, inside, on top leverage all day against that wheel. Free safety, we've got an alert, so my eyes go to 1. I'm on top and inside of 1. Stud linebacker, he gets the alert, eyes go out to 1, play underneath. MAC linebacker, 3's out, find the next threat coming back. Wall number 2. Deep safety can continue to sync and stack the old 2 who became the final number 3. And then backside, we're obviously singled up. Our last overload coverage, our last trip coverage ends up being sky. Real quick reminder on alignments, the free is 5x5 off of number 2, and our deep safety is 10x1 inside of number 3, and we're going to typically man up the number 1 on both sides, or we could, on the single side, we could end up playing curl concept instead of peel. So here we are. We get verts, corners running with one, keep inside on top leverage. Our stud linebacker, even though he's not expecting to cover a route here, whenever we get tight ends outside releasing when we're playing 9 techniques, we treat that like a reach block. We're more worried about the run. That's why we're skying here. So most likely that stud, he's going to stretch that what feels like a reach block on the outside release, keep sinking for depth. MAC linebackers should communicate a push as the 2 comes from the weak side, and really what ends up happening a lot of times, the defensive end will come up and tackle that guy before he even gets out in a route, but our stud linebacker would be available to match him if he continued or a screen or something happened. Free safety is outside leverage to start, stay outside leverage, stay on top. MAC linebacker, after he's called that push, go match up and help out, be underneath of the throw because of the push. A will linebacker, he's able to push towards the new final number 3 because the 2 weak has crossed the center's face, crossed the quarterback's face, and he's able to play underneath what is in the end really the final 2 weak. And then the deep safety, he's keying and looking for the first up and in. 3's out, eyes go to 2, 2's up. I'm going to keep on top and inside leverage because I don't have any help if he crosses my face to the backside. And then the last one, we've got a mesh concept here. We do teach, if we know the split gets smaller, we're going to not run with a crosser, especially to the field side here with our corners. So even though we're in a little bit more of a peel on the single side, since the formation's near the boundary, we're going to be ready to zone off to our deep quarter is how we teach it. Deep third if you want to be if you're a one high guy. But corner, that's flat, it's crossing. He's just trying to get a rub here, sink, get depth, be able to break to the flats when the ball is thrown. MAC linebacker, that's very similar to a push. We don't communicate it that way with our corner, but he is going to sink for depth, and he ultimately would be responsible for coming down and walling the crosser from the other side. Crosser going, crosser coming is what we always coach our linebackers to do. Our will linebacker, 3's crosser, crossing, crosser going, crosser coming, wall the new crosser. Our down safety, he's going to keep outside leverage on number 2 there. Corner's running with 1, and the free should be sinking to the middle. He's free to help out if possibly these crossing routes would break off and go vertical towards the end on a busted play or something like that.
As always, guys, if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Check me out and follow me on Twitter at Coach Klee. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. And if you have anything that maybe requires a longer response, hit me up at coachbrienklee@gmail.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. See you again.